Amina Undayashimiye, just 27, walked up the dusty path leading to her mother-in-law's compound in Kigali. She carried 2 heavy bags of groceries, rice, vegetables, a little meat she had saved money for. Her husband, Kato, worked long hours as an IT analyst, and Amina always tried to make life easier for her. But his mother, Mama Sekanabo, never liked her, never trusted her, and always believed Amina had trapped her precious son. Just as Amina reached the gate, Mama Sekanabo suddenly stepped out and blocked her path. Her voice was loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. "Listen well, Amina. No more money from my son will come to you. I told Kato to stop giving you even 1 franc. A wife must earn her keep." Amina froze. She felt every pair of eyes around her, neighbors hanging laundry, children playing nearby, passers-by pretending not to look but listening closely. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. Before Amina could react, Mama Sekanabo snatched the grocery bags from her hands like she owned them. "If you want luxury, go back to your father's house," she shouted, shaking her head with exaggerated disappointment. For a moment, Amina felt a sting in her chest, a mix of shame and anger. But she bit her lip. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She simply turned around and walked away slowly, her steps controlled, her breathing calm. People thought her silence meant defeat. But Amina knew better. As she reached the end of the road, she whispered to herself, almost smiling, "If she thinks I'm begging for their money, she has no idea what I can build." That evening, after the humiliation at the gate, Amina sat quietly in her small bedroom. The words Mama Sekanabo had shouted still echoed in her head. She felt a heavy knot in her chest, but beneath that pain was something stronger, an old fire she had once ignored. Before marriage, Amina had been known in her neighborhood as the girl who could turn any fabric into beauty. She had taught herself everything: how to cut, shape, stitch, redesign, and create outfits that made women feel confident. She had worked in a tiny shared workshop with other young tailors. The place was noisy, crowded, full of laughter, gossip, and the constant sound of sewing machines buzzing like bees. Amina loved it. People used to come just to watch her work, handing her their fabrics with trust in their eyes. But after she married Kato, everything changed. Mama Sekanabo made it clear from day one. A real wife stays home. Your husband provides. You don't need to go out there sewing like a market girl. Focus on the house. Forget that silly hobby. Slowly, Amina let go of the workshop. She folded away her machine, stored her notebooks filled with designs, and told her loyal clients she wouldn't be sewing for a while. She thought she was choosing peace. But deep inside, she missed the sound of the needle, the smell of fabric, the joy of creating something from nothing. That night, when the world was quiet, Amina opened her old wardrobe and pulled out the sewing machine she had hidden away. It was dusty, the metal slightly dull, but it still felt familiar in her hands. She wiped it with a cloth slowly, almost lovingly, as if greeting an old friend she had abandoned. Her little boy Jabari, only 5 years old, woke up and walked into the room rubbing his eyes. When he saw the sewing machine, his face lit up instantly. "Mama, are you making magic again?" he asked in his soft, sleepy voice. Amina's heart melted. Jabari had been very young when she stopped sewing, but he still remembered the bright dresses, the spinning mannequins, the colorful fabric she used to drape around him when he played pretend. She picked him up and kissed his small forehead. "Yes, baby," she whispered, feeling her strength returning. "Magic is coming." Jabari giggled and hugged her neck tightly, as if he already knew something big was happening. Amina set him gently on the bed and plugged in the machine. The moment she pressed the pedal, the familiar hum filled the room. It felt like life returning to her veins. She opened her old design notebook, pages full of dreams she had paused for too long. Looking at her sketches, she felt a spark she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't just sewing again. She was reclaiming herself, piece by piece. Mama Sekanabo thought Amina was easy to break. But that night, Amina remembered exactly who she used to be, and who she was about to become. Once Amina brought her sewing machine back to life, something inside her shifted. She didn't announce anything. She didn't tell Kato. She didn't tell a single neighbor. She simply started working quietly, like a woman preparing for a storm she intended to win. Her first step was sending a simple WhatsApp message to 3 old clients. "Hi, my dear, I'm sewing again. If you need anything, I'm here." She didn't expect much. But within an hour, her phone buzzed nonstop. "Amina, are you back? Can you make me a dress for Saturday? Do you still do custom designs? My sister's wedding is next month. Can you help?" It was like everyone had been waiting for her. Every night, after Jabari slept and Kato was busy with work, Amina sat at her machine. The soft hum of the needle became the soundtrack of her nights. Fabrics lay across the bed, the floor, even on the windowsill. She worked until the stars faded. And every morning, she folded the dresses neatly into brown paper bags and delivered them quietly to clients who couldn't stop praising her. Within a week, people in Kasairu were asking the same question. Who is this designer making such clean, elegant dresses? And the answer spread like wildfire. There's a talented lady in Kasairu, Amina. Her work is magic. Soon her WhatsApp was full of photos, measurements, voice notes, referrals, and urgent requests. Women sent her videos of themselves twirling in the dresses she made, thanking her for making them feel beautiful. By the end of the month, Amina looked at the total amount she had earned and gasped. She had made more money in 1 month than Kato made in his full salary. She stared at the number on her screen for a long time, her hands trembling, not with fear, but with pride. But she didn't say a word. Not yet. She hid the income carefully, saving every franc. She wanted to build something stable before anyone tried to interfere, especially Mama Sekanabo. Of course, Mama Sekanabo had no idea what was happening. She stood outside the compound every morning, loud as ever, proudly telling neighbors, "My son cut that girl off. She has no choice but to crawl back to me. Just wait, you will see." She said it with her chest, hands on her hips, confidence dripping from every word. And neighbors would nod politely, pretending to agree, while secretly thinking, this woman really doesn't know what's coming. Meanwhile, inside her room, Amina was ironing another finished dress, humming softly to herself, her phone lighting up with more orders. If Mama Sekanabo thought the humiliation at the gate broke Amina, she had no idea she had just helped create a stronger, fiercer, unstoppable version of her. If only she knew what was growing quietly right under her nose. A week later, Mama Sekanabo decided it was time to celebrate her victory. She called for a full family meeting, uncles, aunties, cousins, even 2 nosy neighbors she considered family friends. According to her, this meeting was important because she had restored discipline in her son's household. She cooked a big pot of beef stew, arranged chairs in the compound, and even wore her best kitenge dress. She moved around proudly, smiling like a queen who had conquered a kingdom. When everyone settled, Mama Sekanabo cleared her throat loudly. "Attention! I have an announcement," she said, standing up straight with her hands on her waist. "My son Kato listens to his mother. His money is safe. Amina will now respect me. No more wasting my son's hard-earned salary." People nodded politely, though some exchanged small glances. Everyone knew Mama Sekanabo loved drama. Amina sat quietly beside Kato, her expression calm, almost unreadable. She wasn't planning to say anything. She didn't need to. Then Mama Sekanabo continued her speech, cheering herself on. "You see, a wife must be guided. She must be corrected when she starts acting spoiled. Now things are better. Kato has stopped giving her money, and she has learned her place." Before Amina could react, Kato looked up from his cup of tea and spoke casually, as if commenting on the weather. "Actually, Mama, Amina hasn't asked me for money in weeks." The entire compound went silent. Aunties stopped chewing. Children paused mid-giggle. Even the stew stopped boiling for a second. Everyone looked at Kato, then at Amina, then at Mama Sekanabo. A deep frown slowly formed on Mama Sekanabo's face. "What do you mean she hasn't asked you? Why not? What is she hiding?" Her voice rose, filled with suspicion. Kato shrugged. "I don't know. She just hasn't needed anything from me. She's been managing very well." Amina's heart fluttered, not from fear, no, from quiet satisfaction. She looked down slightly, trying to hide the tiny smile tugging at her lips. She had been waiting for this moment, not to embarrass anyone, but to let the truth speak for itself. The aunties leaned forward, curious. One cousin whispered, "And maybe she's working?" Another replied, "But Mama Sekanabo said she stays home." Mama Sekanabo turned sharply toward Amina, eyes narrowing. "So tell me, Amina, where have you been getting money? Who is giving it to you?" Her tone was sharp, accusing, almost shaking with frustration. Amina lifted her head slowly and met her mother-in-law's eyes. She didn't speak. She didn't defend herself. She simply gave a small, calm smile, silent but powerful. That smile said everything. "I don't depend on your son. I don't depend on you. And I don't fear you." And in that moment, Mama Sekanabo felt something she never expected. She felt threatened. The woman she thought she had crushed was standing stronger than ever, without saying a single word. 2 days after the awkward family meeting, something unbelievable happened. Something Amina didn't plan, didn't expect, and didn't even realize at first. A popular Kigali influencer named Keza was invited to a friend's birthday party. She needed a last-minute dress and stopped by her cousin's house to borrow something. Her cousin handed her a beautiful, perfectly fitted dress and said, "Try this one. A designer in Kasairu made it. She's really good." Keza wore it. She posted a video dancing and laughing at the party. Within hours, the video went viral. People weren't just admiring her beauty, they were obsessed with the dress. Comments flooded in. "Where did you get this dress? Tag the designer. Whoever made this is talented. I need that exact design." Keza replied under one comment, "I didn't buy it. My cousin got it from a designer called Amina in Kasairu." That one sentence changed Amina's life. By the next morning, Amina woke up to over 300 WhatsApp messages. Her phone literally froze twice from the notifications. Brides were sending voice notes begging for wedding gowns. Fashion boutiques were asking for wholesale orders. Even small clothing shops from Jisanyai and Hai messaged her. But the biggest shock came from Johannesburg. A South African boutique owner sent her an email. "We saw your dress trending. We want to collaborate. Can we discuss a supply contract?" Amina sat on her bed staring at the email, her hands shaking. She wasn't even sure if she was dreaming. An hour later, she received another message, this time from the organizers of Rwanda Fashion Week. "We've seen your designs. We would love to invite you to showcase your work this season." She gasped so loudly that Jabari ran into the room thinking she was hurt. "Mama, what happened?" he asked with big, curious eyes. "Something good, baby," she whispered, pulling him into a hug. "Something very good." Later that week, she had a Zoom call with the South African boutique. They discussed designs, samples, timelines, and budgets. When they finally presented their offer, Amina nearly dropped her phone. A 30 million RWF contract. 30 million. More than she had ever imagined earning. She muted her mic for a moment, covered her mouth, and cried silently. Tears of gratitude. Tears of victory. Tears of disbelief. When the call ended and she officially signed the deal, Amina fell to her knees and whispered, "Mama Sekanabo said no money would come to me. God said watch." She pressed her forehead to the floor, overwhelmed by how life can turn so fast. How pain can become power when you refuse to give up. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. Her success was about to shake the entire family. And Mama Sekanabo was the last person prepared for what was coming. It was a bright Thursday morning when Mama Sekanabo decided to drop by unannounced. She imagined Amina struggling, maybe sitting in a tiny room surrounded by a few half-finished dresses, probably asking Kato for money to buy fabric. She smirked at the thought. Today, she would witness the truth. Her son's wife failing at life without his support. But what she saw made her freeze. The moment she stepped inside Amina's small workshop, her jaw nearly dropped. Rolls of colorful fabric were stacked neatly against the wall, some shimmering in gold and silver thread. Mannequins wore half-finished gowns that already looked stunning. Staff, 2 assistants and a young apprentice, were buzzing around, sewing, ironing, and organizing orders efficiently. The air smelled of fresh fabric and sewing thread, a heady scent of work and success. Outside, several customers waited patiently, talking excitedly about the dresses they were about to pick up. One woman held a designer gown, examining it carefully, her eyes sparkling. Another took selfies in front of the racks, tagging Amina's WhatsApp number for her friends. Mama Sekanabo blinked, her hands gripping the gate tightly. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't even considered the possibility that Amina could be thriving without Kato's help. Where did you get money for all this?" she stammered, her voice louder than intended, trembling with shock. Amina looked up calmly from her machine. She didn't rush. She didn't shout. She simply pressed her lips together and said slowly, "From the work your son didn't give me." Mama Sekanabo's face stiffened. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Her pride, so carefully built over years of controlling others, cracked. "Are you challenging me?" she demanded, her voice tight with disbelief and a little fear. Amina paused her work and met her mother-in-law's eyes. She didn't flinch. She didn't yell. She simply replied, "I'm not challenging you. I'm simply standing for myself. Something I should have done long ago." There was a silence that felt heavy, almost physical. Mama Sekanabo looked around again, as if seeing the workshop for the first time, her mind struggling to process the bustling activity, the stacks of dresses, the satisfied customer. For the first time in years, she felt powerless. Amina went back to sewing, her hands moving smoothly, her focus unwavering. Jabari sat nearby, watching his mother work, smiling proudly. Outside, more clients were arriving, whispering excitedly about the dresses they would get. Mama Sekanabo turned to leave, but she couldn't bring herself to speak another word. She had walked in expecting to see a struggling, defeated woman, and instead found a thriving, unstoppable force. That morning, Mama Sekanabo realized something terrifying. Her control over Amina was gone forever, and no amount of yelling or scolding could ever bring it back. Amina's success was impossible to hide. Word had spread across Kasairu and beyond. Her dresses were everywhere, and clients kept lining up at her workshop. Mama Sekanabo watched all of it from the compound next door, her face twisting between disbelief and frustration. She had expected Amina to fail, to struggle, to eventually beg for Kato's help. None of that had happened. Instead, Amina was thriving. Mama Sekanabo realized she needed a new plan. If she couldn't stop Amina, maybe she could pretend she had helped. She started talking to neighbors, casual but loud enough for anyone within earshot to hear. "I told her to work, all this business? It's because I encouraged her. I pushed her to use her skills." A few neighbors raised eyebrows. One whispered to another, "Really? You think anyone believes that? But Mama Sekanabo didn't care. She repeated it everywhere she went, at the market, in church, even at a hair salon. She wanted credit, even if it was stolen. Her next move was bolder. She walked straight to Amina's workshop one afternoon, faking a smile and adjusting her kaiten. Amina was arranging dresses on a mannequin, focused, calm, unaware that trouble was coming in the form of her mother-in-law. "Now that you're making money," Mama Sekanabo said, leaning slightly on the doorframe, "remember to contribute to the family. You owe me." Amina looked up, her eyes soft but firm. She smiled politely, the kind of smile that was friendly but untouchable. "I owe no one for my success except myself," she said clearly, her voice steady. Mama Sekanabo blinked. She hadn't expected that. She had expected Amina to panic, to bow, to stammer a promise. But Amina didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She didn't need to. Her calm confidence was more powerful than any words of surrender could ever be. Amina returned to her mannequin, adjusting the hem of a gown. Her small team worked around her, humming quietly, unaware of the tension in the room. Customers waiting outside peeked through the windows, curious, but none dared interrupt. Mama Sekanabo left the workshop shortly after, shaking her head. She tried to repeat her usual schemes in her mind, to convince herself she still had power, but it felt empty. For the first time, she realized that credit could not be forced. You couldn't take someone's success with loud words or empty claims. Amina, on the other hand, felt lighter than ever. Each day, each dress, each satisfied customer was proof that she was building her life on her own terms. Mama Sekanabo's words bounced off her now. They had no power. She didn't need anyone's approval, and certainly didn't need false praise. In the quiet of her workshop, Amina smiled to herself. Every stitch she sewed was a little victory. Every client who left smiling was a reminder. Her work, her success, her future, belonged only to her. And no one, not even Mama Sekanabo, could change that. Mama Sekanabo had tried subtlety, then manipulation, and finally taking credit, but nothing worked. Amina's success didn't just thrive. It grew like a wildfire, unstoppable and undeniable. That's when jealousy turned into full-blown anger. She started by calling Kato at work every morning, her voice sharp and accusing. "Have you seen how your wife acts?" she demanded. "She's too proud. She thinks she's better than us. She disrespects me in my own house." Kato, gentle and calm, tried to explain. "Mama, she's just running her business. She's responsible. She's not disrespecting anyone." But Mama Sekanabo wasn't satisfied. She began spreading rumors among neighbors, relatives, and even at the local market. "Amina is acting too proud. She thinks money makes her superior. You should see how she ignores me." Some neighbors whispered, some rolled their eyes, but Mama Sekanabo believed she could turn public opinion against Amina. She even went further, trying to involve elders in the community. She visited them, pleading, "This girl is too bold. She's making trouble in our family. You must talk to her. She should know her place." But Amina ignored all the gossip, the accusations, and the manipulations. She stayed focused on her orders, her customers, and her son Jabari. Her calm confidence only fueled Mama Sekanabo's frustration. Finally, one afternoon, Mama Sekanabo barged into the workshop, her face red and tight with fury. She slammed her hands on the table, scattering fabric rolls, and yelled, "Shut down your business. A wife should stay home." The assistants froze. Jabari looked up from his coloring book. Kato, who had been visiting to deliver lunch, felt his chest tighten. He had been caught in the middle of this growing storm, unsure how to calm his mother without betraying his wife. Amina didn't flinch. She put down the scissors she had been using, wiped her hands on her apron, and looked Mama Sekanabo straight in the eyes. "This business feeds my child and my future," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I will not shut it down. I will not let fear or jealousy control my life." Mama Sekanabo's jaw dropped. For the first time, her words didn't have power. Amina's tone, steady and unwavering, left no room for argument. Kato stepped forward, trying to mediate. "Mama, please, she's only doing what's right. She's building her life, and she's not harming anyone." But Mama Sekanabo shook her head, anger simmering under her skin. She hadn't realized that her son's support alone wouldn't be enough to control Amina. The tension in the workshop was thick, almost suffocating. Outside, customers peeked in nervously, sensing the conflict but too respectful to interfere. Inside, a mother and her young child stood strong, while a woman used to control tried and failed to assert it. Amina's resolve didn't waver. She had faced humiliation, judgment, and jealousy before, and each time, she had risen stronger. Today was no different. Today, she wasn't just sewing dresses. She was sewing her freedom, one stitch at a time. It was late in the evening when Amina's workshop buzzed with an unusual energy. Today, she had a very important visitor, a major investor from Nairobi, someone known for backing African designers with big potential. He had flown in after seeing her dresses online and hearing about her growing reputation. Amina greeted him politely, offering him tea as he walked among the racks of dresses. The investor examined the designs, feeling the quality of the fabric, the precision of the stitching, the creativity in each piece. His eyes lit up. "This is incredible," he said. "I can see the vision. I want to fund a full boutique and workshop for you. Let's talk numbers." Amina's heart raced, but she kept her calm, professional demeanor. She laid out her plans, budgets, and ideas clearly, showing him how she could grow into a major fashion brand, not just in Kigali, but across East Africa. Just as the investor was nodding, impressed and excited, the door flung open. Mama Sekinabo stormed in, her face red and voice cracking with anger. "Amina, stop deceiving people. You are nothing without my son," she shouted, pointing a finger at her. The investor froze mid-step, shock written all over his face. He looked between the two women, clearly unsure what he had walked into. Amina stayed calm. She took a deep breath, smiled politely, and said, "Sir, please excuse this interruption." Then, with quiet authority, she turned back to the investor as if nothing had happened, continuing the discussion. Mama Sekinabo fumed in the background, realizing her usual tactics, yelling, intimidating, claiming control, no longer worked. Amina didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She simply carried herself with confidence and grace that even the investor couldn't ignore. Minutes later, the investor leaned back, impressed not just with the dresses, but with how Amina handled the situation. He whispered to her as they wrapped up the meeting, "If you can handle this kind of storm with grace, you're more than ready for expansion. I want to back you fully." Amina smiled, her heart pounding. They signed the deal, the paper confirming the beginning of a full boutique and workshop, a step into a future she had only dreamed of. Mama Sekinabo, standing in the corner, suddenly understood something terrifying. She had believed she could control Amina, intimidate her, and dictate her life. But now, right in front of a major investor, she had seen the truth. Her control was gone forever. Amina turned back to the investor, feeling a quiet sense of triumph. She didn't need anyone's money or permission to succeed, certainly not Mama Sekinabo. That night, she realized fully that her hard work, her patience, and her determination had built something unstoppable. Mama Sekinabo left, slamming the door behind her, defeated. Inside, Amina and the investor shook hands, sealing not just a deal, but the undeniable fact that Amina's future was hers alone to create. The grand opening of Amina Couture House in central Kigali was a day no one would forget. The shop was huge, with glass windows showing rows of beautiful dresses, mannequins draped in shimmering fabrics and vibrant colors that seemed to dance in the sunlight. Inside, the air buzzed with excitement as customers, journalists, and influencers moved from rack to rack, snapping photos and admiring Amina's creations. TV cameras flashed as reporters asked questions. Amina spoke with calm confidence, sharing her story of hard work, persistence, and dreams that refused to die. Women from all over Kigali lined up, inspired not just by the dresses, but by the woman behind them. On social media, her name trended. People couldn't stop talking about the designer, who had risen from humiliation to success on her own terms. Amid all the celebration, Mama Sekinabo appeared one last time, standing at the entrance with her signature frown, trying to assert herself one final time. "Now that you're rich," she said loudly, her voice trembling slightly, "don't forget who warned you first." The crowd paused, sensing the tension. Amina turned slowly, looked Mama Sekinabo straight in the eyes, and smiled. Not a small polite smile, but one full of calm power and quiet triumph. "You warned me," Amina said softly but firmly, "but your warning became my motivation." With that, she turned and walked past her mother-in-law, her husband Kato at her side, and little Jabari holding her hand. The three of them moved forward, leaving doubt, control, and humiliation behind. As she stepped out into the sunlight, the voiceover of her story whispered like a promise. "Some warnings are insults, some are threats, and some are fuel. Mine became fire, and from that fire, I rebuilt myself." Amina wasn't just a designer now. She was a symbol of strength, courage, and the unstoppable power of believing in yourself, no matter who tries to hold you back.